what is the deal here with Mario Strikers Battle League? I mean, most critics are giving it solid reviews, but the fans are ripping it to pieces. A user score of 4.2 on Metacritic? Like, do you guys realize how bad that is? Nintendo Switch Sports got a user score of 5.8. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash even got a 5.2. Jeez, well then what caused the uproar for this specific game then? Well, today, we're gonna get to the bottom of this, because I've been waiting for a new Strikers game for a very long time. The last one, Mario Strikers Charged, came out 15 years ago, and that is my favorite Mario sports game of all time. Heck, I even made a 26-minute video talking about it. So I am super passionate about this series. I'm gonna tell you what I think of this new game. And I'll compare it to the many aspects of the previous games in this series. And after that, I'll tell you why people are especially pissed at Battle League in particular. So let's get this started. Okay, so intro cutscene, title screen, main menu, and then let's just select a quick match to get a taste of what this game is about. If you're not familiar with the Mario Strikers series, then think of it as a combination of soccer mixed with hockey, plus a little Mario craziness sprinkled in. It's a cool concept. And right away, you can just tell the actual gameplay is very solid. Like, there is a lot to the core gameplay here. You can shoot, pass, lob shoot, tackle, charge up your tackle, or even tackle your teammates to boost them into your opponents, just to name some of the interactions you can do here. All these mechanics combined together really allows the core gameplay to have a lot of depth to it. It's actually really fun to make big plays, like looking for an open man to pass to and then getting that perfect one-timer. However, one move I've noticed was gone after being in both previous Strikers games is the slide tackle. I loved that move in the previous games, so it's kind of a shame to see it gone here. Now, the only way to get the ball from another player is to body check them, which does limit the player's choices a bit more. But at least you can charge the tackle now, so there is still some variety. But man, I've kind of been getting into this online mode here. I've been having fun with it for now. I have this team of 2 enforcers, you know, like Bowser and Wario with max strength gear, so I can just slap these kids around all day. And then 2 snipers in Yoshi and Rosalina with max shooting gear as the main goal scorers of this team. Basically, the enforcer's job is to get the ball by decking the other characters and then pass the ball to the snipers for the goals. Not saying this is the best team here, but it's the one I had the most fun with. I probably like how Mario Strikers Charged plays out a bit more though. I will say this game is a lot more slower paced than Strikers Charged, and they got rid of the glowy ball mechanic from that game, which sped up the shots and passes. However, this is a great attempt in trying to keep the Strikers gameplay familiar yet new at the same time, so it doesn't just feel like the last game. Also, in these videos, I talk about a bunch of different video game topics, and I will usually try and add some sort of special effects into the mix, because I'm into that kind of stuff. So if that sort of thing interests you, then subscribe to the channel, because I have plenty of ideas for the future. But there are a few more elements that are mixed into these matches, and these are mainly the items and the hyper strikes. The items are not just given to the players anymore, but they're thrown onto the field at random points. However, if you hit someone without the ball, then an item box will be thrown out that only the other team can pick up. So it's very similar to the previous games, which is good, because it stops the teams from just hitting everybody recklessly, since there's a punishment for that. Yeah, I don't find this to be a huge change, as it pretty well plays out closely to just earning them, since someone on one of the teams will grab them pretty quickly. But the items themselves are really a downgrade from the previous games too. There's no new items here, and they removed a bunch of ones that were previous staples in the series, like the blue shells, spiky shells, or even the chain chomps. Those were awesome. But worse than that is they got rid of the character-specific items in the last game too. Damn, now that is a bummer. They didn't even replace them with something cool, just poof, gone, not a part of the game anymore. However, even with that being said, these items are still good to have in this game as it gives the players more options and contributes to the general craziness of strikers. And then the hyper strikes pretty well work identically to how they did in the first Mario Strikers, so they went back to that version. But the way you get them is different now. See, you can only use a Hyper Strike if someone on your team picks up these glowy orbs that spawn at random. This is an interesting aspect because you now only have a small window to use your Hyper Strike, which puts a lot of pressure on the opponent's team to not give your team any room to use them. So then you can strategically draw your opponents to one player if you want to like fake a Hyper Strike or something, and then pass it to someone else who's open for the goal. Yeah, so this is an interesting shakeup for how the Hyper Strikes work. But what would a Strikers game be without all the different wacky Mario characters to choose from that you can use in these matches? Well, let's take a look at the character roster, and as you can see, there's only 10 characters for now. But not to worry, this is a Strikers game. They always have those hidden unlockable characters that you unlock when you play through the cups. Huh? What's that? There's only 10 characters? And the rest are coming in free updates in which we don't even know when they're gonna be released? This is so lame. There's no way of dancing around it, okay? Already, in like the first hour of playing this game, you are gonna see so many repeat characters of all the teams. But what makes this even worse is that there's not many differences between how they play compared to the previous Strikers games. Yes, of course, they all have different stats here and are all different sizes, but that's about it. You don't have character-specific items in this game, and all the characters have the exact same moveset. Compare this to Strikers Charged, where each character had a unique dodge that was character-specific. Like how Boos can turn invisible for a sec, or the Hammer Bros just smack you with a giant hammer. On top of that, all the sidekicks in Strikers Charged used to have their own unique special shot, but now there's not any exclusive moves for any of these characters. One interesting change about the characters this time is that there's no longer captains or sidekicks like there were in the previous games. Everyone is essentially a captain now. So I do wonder if this decision was based on how small this character roster actually is. Like, you really can't break up 10 characters into captains and sidekicks, cause oh boy, would that ever be limited. Honestly, I kinda like the old way better because you'd first choose like your favorite Mario character to be the star of the show, and then the team logos and everything would be based around him. Then the sidekicks would be like your support for this. But this might just be a personal thing, as having it this new way does at least allow people to choose exactly what characters they want. But it's really not a huge change. However, there is one way you can customize these characters, in a sense, and that is with the new feature in this game, the gear system. Basically, you can change certain stats of any character by equipping these certain clothes. So if you want your character to look straight out of Tron, or make Toad have a freakishly large head, then yeah, you could do that. This is good because it does add a lot more ways to customize your team and get the exact playstyle you want. Plus, maxing out one of your stats really feels like it makes a big difference in that stat. But at the same time, I mean, they kinda had to do something like this with only 10 characters here. Or else literally, this game would get so limited with this roster, there would be barely anything to change at all. Then, after you select a character, you get to choose a field, and okay. Well, there's only like 5 options to choose from. That's a pretty small selection as is, but maybe they're going for the quality over quantity approach, right? And they all have unique, different, and awesome mechanics in each of them. Nope, they're all exactly the same. There's no hazards or other elements whatsoever. They're just blank pieces of land. They do have this new mechanic though, where each team chooses a half of a field and then they get put together for the game. But I mean, like we just looked at, they all play out exactly the same. So the only difference is the visuals in the stands. But you don't even see the stands while playing in the matches. So really, you're just controlling what shade of green you want the grass to be. Like what? What is the point of all this? This is all irrelevant. Nothing feels or looks different. This is like only being able to change the court color in Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Huh, I just don't even know with this game. One aspect though that is actually really well done here are the characters' animations and personalities. And I guess at this point, this is kind of a staple of the Strikers series, so it's good to see it continue on in this version. There is actually a lot of detail in these, especially for all the winning animations. Probably my favorite is Wario's garlic breath one. There's so much going on here in this very short sequence. And they speak in full sentences in these animations, which is something we really don't see much in the Mario series, so it's a nice touch. But it's not just the cutscenes, as even during the game, the character animations are awesome. All the characters visually handle and kick the ball in their own way to reflect their personality, even if they all feel pretty similar to Control. Like Yoshi just uses his tongue the whole time, and even can shoot with it somehow. Rosalina is just too cool to walk, I guess, cause she floats around the whole time. And Wario doesn't even use his feet, but just straight up grabs the ball and walks around with it. What a cheater! And even while the match is just starting up, the characters are not just standing there, but they're all screwing around. It's small details like all of these that give this game a great presentation. I will say my one problem with this though is that they lost most of the grit and roughness of these characters from the first two Strikers games. They still got a lot of personality here, don't get me wrong, but now they lost the toughness. Nobody is pissed anymore, and they're all back to their happy-go-lucky Mario character selves. Except for the Hyper Strikes, okay? Everyone is pissed and all fired up here, so I actually really like these animations. But then, when it ends, it's back to their normal, cheerful selves. So, I wish more of this came out in the other animations too. But I gotta give the Hyper Strikes some credit. They're really cool, man. Also, the music is really great in this game. I don't know what other section to put this in, so I'm just talking about it here. But it's got this whole rock and roll theme going, much like the other Strikers games. And it even has a bunch of rock covers for other Mario songs, so this is pretty great in my books. Okay, so now that we've looked at the core gameplay and the quick matches here, let's move on and check out what else this game has to offer. So the next option down is Cup Battles, which are a bunch of different cups to play with teams that use various strategies. But I mean, I didn't notice that much of a difference in their play styles, so pretty well, this is just regular matches. Okay, but not to worry, we have Strikers Club here, which has online clubs to join where you just play regular matches. Okay, but then there's gear settings, so you can change your character's gear to use in just regular matches. Okay, but in quick battles, there's online games here, which are just regular matches, but now you play against someone online. Oh, okay, there's all these different settings in quick battle, like changing the match length, and even that has only like 4 choices, so it's no different than regular matches. Oh, here we go. Then there's the training mode, which just explains to you how to use all your moves for the, regular matches. Oh, I've got it, the last thing, this has to be it. Here is options, there's gotta be something, right? I can turn on visual assist mode. Yeah, it's a completely different game now. Everything is the exact same mode in this game. They're all just regular matches. There's nothing else to do in this game because there's nothing else in this game. All these menus are just fancy terms for regular matches. There's nothing different and they all play out identically. You could look at a 1-second clip of this game and see practically everything this game has to offer in it. Only without 2 of the characters and some gear. That is ridiculous for any game, much less a full AAA $60 first-party Nintendo published game. This ain't a game, it's a tech demo. Hell, I don't even know how they released a demo for this game, cause that would just be the whole game. And yes, on record, I did say this game has a lot of depth, which makes the game replayable, but that is the only saving grace. This game literally had to be replayable because without it, there's like 5 minutes of gameplay here. Plus, there is absolutely no variety in this game whatsoever. And if you want to say this game is just online multiplayer focused, well then it fails to do that too, because the lag is based on your opponent's connection, so you often run into lag while playing matches. Plus the menus are so clunky with having to reselect your team every match, so it takes way longer than it should just to get into a game. Plus, for some reason, you can get into a 2v1 match where there is 2 players playing against just you, which makes it incredibly unfair since one opponent can just tackle your players while the other goes for a safe hyperstrike. Oh, and you can't even play 4v4 online where everyone just has 1 player on the teams of 4. Like, what is this online? So then, online is very poor in quality, which just leaves the local content in which it's very bare bones and minimal. And yeah, I know, Mario Strikers Charged didn't have that much other modes in it either, but first of all, it had some at least, and secondly, it didn't need to have as much because there was way more variety in the base matches. It had 10 original fields that all had a gimmick or stage hazard in it, and they all played out differently, plus they brought back the 7 fields from the first game as a bonus. And then Strikers Charged had 20 characters that all felt completely different from one another. They all had a unique dodge move they can use, and the captains had their own specific item. Whereas Battle League has 5 fields that play out identically, and then only 10 characters that all have the same moves with no unique attributes to them. The only differences being their stats and size, and a gear system that simply just tweaks those stats. You know what this game is like? Imagine you release Smash Bros. Ultimate, but the only stage was Final Destination with 5 different Omega forms. And then they only had 10 characters, but they were all Echo Fighters of one another with the exact same moves, just with different stats that you could also change with spirits. Then get rid of all the items except for like 5, and then move every single other mode except for regular Smash. Sounds fun, right? Ugh, it's so odd, this game. I don't even know how a game managed to be so good, yet so bad at the same time. It's quite a crazy accomplishment, if you ask me. Like, the core gameplay is honestly a lot of fun, and the presentation here is super polished and well made too. But then everything else is either somewhat of a downgrade from the previous games, or just completely lacking altogether. What happened to this game, man? And that's not even the whole reason as to why people are this mad here. I also think it's a combination of 2 things. So Nintendo has been doing these free update things for a decent amount of time now, and this has mostly been met with a negative response from fans, as it feels like this is more of an excuse to release these games unfinished, and then, well, we'll just fix it later. And this is because there is very little content in these games when they come out. So you already take that issue and combine it with the revival of the Mario Strikers series, which is this game. Like I said, this is my favorite Mario sports game, and I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. People adore this game. But for the other free update sports games, at least there's been other games in that series released somewhat recently, whereas Strikers hasn't got a new entry since 2007 on the Wii. So you combine waiting 15 years for this with the fact that this series is so beloved by Nintendo fans, and then you essentially ruin this foundation with a practice that fans have been complaining about for game after game at this point. And I think you can better see why people, especially with this game, are pissed about how it turned out. Like, yes, I had fun with this game, and I'm glad to see another game in this series being made, but this just feels like the biggest wasted potential for a brand new Mario sports game. And that's really what it comes down to. It's a game that is a lot of fun for a little while, but after that, you quickly experience everything that this game has to offer. And that is just no fun.